If you think you need to choose between being a full-time working mom and homeschooling your children, stick around because that is exactly what I want to talk to you about. I have been homeschooling for the last 3 years, and for those 3 years, I have been working full-time. And actually, for the last 2 of the 3 years, both my husband and I have been working full-time. But before we get into it, if you're new here, hi, I'm Judy Marlowe. I am a Christian, a mom of 6 kiddos, a wife married to my best friend for 15 years. And I am currently building an online business while I'm working my 9 to 5 so that I can transition from my 9 to 5 and spend more time with my children and my husband without sacrificing my family's finances or time just to take that leap. Today, I just want to walk through why I decided to homeschool and then the practical steps of what we did to homeschool. And I just want to say this up front. I am not making any promises that this is easy or simple by any means, but what I do want you to know is that it's possible. My daughter was entering middle school, and I've always wanted to homeschool, but as a working mom, I thought, how can this be? There's no way that I can homeschool if my husband and I are both working. And I really wanted my husband to stay home with the children, but he didn't feel called to stay home. So my daughter was entering middle school, and I happened to be scrolling on social media one day and found an article about her school, and I didn't really like it. And I was reading through the comments, and I had a lot of concerns because parents were coming on there talking about this particular teacher. And I just felt this deep conviction in my soul. And mind you, this was the summer before she was entering middle school. And I just felt like I couldn't send her to school. And I talked to my husband about it and I said, hey, I understand we've been doing public school. I went to public school and so did my husband. And we turned out fine, right? But I just felt like my daughter wasn't ready to enter that environment. Yes, we raised her in the church and we wanted her to make really good decisions and be a disciple of Jesus. But reality is, I just didn't feel certain that this was the right decision for her. So I immediately started talking to all my homeschool mama friends and looked up stuff. And what I found was a tutorial service. So a tutorial service is a hybrid option of school. They provide you the curriculum. Your children go to a physical building for 2 to 3 days a week, and they have tutors who teach them. And then the rest of the week, they're home with you and you are the tutor. Even with that schedule, we didn't know how we were going to make that possible because we're working, we can send them to school half a day, but what do we do for the rest of the half of the day? When we started this homeschool journey, we had an au pair living with us. If you are interested in the au pair program, I would love to answer any questions you may have, and maybe I'll make a future video about that. But we had a live-in nanny from another country, and she was great. We loved her so much, and we told her about this change. Now, the thing is, au pairs, or the au pair that we had, was not able to do school with the kids. So that was a strict rule that they had. They have au pairs who can also be dual-hatted as educators, but that is something that you have to say before you even match with your au pair. We talked with our au pair and we said, hey, we're going to have our kids do this homeschool thing. You don't have to teach them, but you do have to change your schedule a little bit. They will be home more, which all the kids being home at the same time can be a lot, especially for one person. Another thing that we did besides have in-home childcare, we had a tutor who would come in and teach the kids. She would come in the rest of the days of the week that the kids were not in the building. When my husband and I were still both working and homeschooling, we would do a lot of schoolwork in the evenings and on Saturday or Sunday. And that's just a sacrifice that we decided to make for our family because we really believed that this was the best thing to do. Also, at the time, we had 2 other school-age kids. So we not only took our daughter from middle school, but we also took out the other 2 from public school just because we wanted all of our kids to be on the same page and have the same schedule. This was really difficult to do. My husband and I wanted to quit. We questioned if we were doing right by our children because we just weren't home. And my husband said, why are we homeschooling? It's so difficult, it's so hard, but I really just kept praying and asking God and felt like this was the right thing, that just because this was hard doesn't mean that we should stop doing it. I also saw the fruit of it so quickly. My children were learning so much. My children were taking Latin. The best thing about the curriculum, Classical Conversations, everything is rooted in the Word of God, which I love. So when they talk about science, when they talk about math, history, whatever it is, it's all tied back to Jesus. And I just love that so much. That was another thing I was convicted about. I was sending my children away to public school and they were sitting in a classroom for 8 hours a day, not learning about the gospel. When they would come home from school, I would ask them what they learned about, and they would tell me, oh, nothing, or how was the day? Oh, fine. And they were just doing a lot of screen time. I just wasn't seeing a lot of fruit. Also, my kids would come home and they would just separate and go off to their own spaces. And since homeschooling, my kids still fight, but I do see a closeness with them. I do see them growing. It is amazing to just be walking with them, and my kids are able to connect something from the Bible with something they learned in school, tie back to history. Like even today, we were sitting in church and my pastor referenced Augustine and told us such a beautiful testimony about his life. And my oldest daughter leaned over and said, hey guys, we learned about that. So it is really cool to see the fruit of us making this decision. And yes, it has been so hard and there have been a lot of tears. And my oldest daughter was just very upset with us for a while because of our decision, but she has come to us and said, I know that God wanted you to do this. And we still have conversations about it because she's about to start high school, and we got her a new schedule and actually added some more classes. So she'll be attending 2 tutorials and doing some stuff at home. Once my husband decided to stay home, we had a schedule for them. So on the days that they went to school, they had to be there at 8. So we would leave the house about around 7:20, wake up around 6. On those days, I would wake up around 4 to make sure that I have my morning schedule done. I will also post a video about what that schedule looks like. And we would take them to school and pick them up by 12, let them have the rest of the afternoon to just play and relax and do chores at the house. And the other 3 days out of the week, they wake up at 7 a.m. and we start with Bible study. They have breakfast, they do their chores, and then they go straight into school. And we try to be done by around 12. Because I live really close to my job, I'm able to come home during lunch and assist, or I would come home straight from work and just get straight into a math lesson or help a kid with something. Because some days it is just going to be very busy. Some days it's just going to take a lot longer than other days, and we would have to adjust the schedule. And that's one thing I really love about homeschooling is the flexibility of it. It is really nice to say, hey, we're not going to work on this today. We're going to do that tomorrow. We're going to do that in the evening. As long as we're communicating with the tutors, they were fine with that and they would understand if the workload was just too much for our kiddos. I really hope that if you are a working mom and you desire to homeschool your kiddos, that this provided some encouragement for you. If you had any questions about what I talked about today, please drop it in the comments. If you are also a working mom and you have been doing this homeschooling thing and you have some great tips, please comment below. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one.